Despite an incredibly frustrating second half, UNLV won. That's what's important. The UNLV football team is 3-0. This is about as good a position as we could have hoped to be in. Guys, I'm going to break down for you this game. Let's talk about it, the frustrations, the good, the bad. This is the Let's Run podcast. Guys, welcome to the show today. Just got home. I was thinking, when we were early on in that third quarter, I was thinking, maybe this will be a blowout. I'll be able to head to the car, get home, and we will get the live show up a little bit earlier. It was not to be. Brian says we tried to choke it away. Yeah, I'm going to tell you exactly why that happened and what happened, because, there were some pretty big issues, and this is something that we saw in the Sam Houston game as well. B-Dog is correct, though, that we won. Ultimately, this game was a game that we were not favored in. It was our only power opponent, our only power or future power opponent for the entire season. And we had to win this game if we wanted to be taken seriously in the national kind of landscape. A lot of people watched this game in the first half, saw us play really well, saw Calandria was outstanding tonight. We'll get to him. Saw some of the throws that we were making. Our offense looked really good. UNLV should have really been up 23. I mean, they should have been up 24, but for a botched extra point after a touchdown. UNLV, goes into the half up 23-3, and I have been talking about this quite a bit, and maybe underachievers are happy with this win. I get where you're coming from, Brian. I am happy with this win because it was a game that we had to win. And it was a game against UCLA, and look, if UCLA goes out and loses to New Mexico next week, they have a home game against New Mexico, Jason Eck and the New Mexico Lobos next week. This win will lose quite a bit of its luster, but they just had to win this game, and the coaches can be mad about how that second half played out. Certainly there's really, I can't be that mad at a lot of the players, but with the penalties, I'll get into it. Let me get into it. I think people turned it off at halftime nationally. Yeah, people turned this game off at halftime. That's absolutely what was happening. And Reb for Life, hey, how you doing, AJ? Good to talk to you. He says, ahead of where I thought they would be. Am I allowed to say that the refs kept UCLA in the game? UCLA deserves a little bit of credit because they could have just completely folded in that second half. They realized what the UNLV defense was giving them, and the UNLV defense went into kind of prevent defense mode. In soccer, it's called parking the bus. It's essentially where you keep all your guys back, you keep the ball ahead of you, you just try and keep big plays from happening. And UCLA saw that and took what we were giving them. Yeah, I agree. There was some good usage of the tight end in this game. The offense was fine. Yeah, I would agree, Jordan. I thought the officiating in this game was frustrating in a sense, but both teams were just really undisciplined, and UNLV was even more undisciplined. I mean, the number of yards that we were giving up. I guess I gotta pull up the stats here. Let's present the stats here of this game. Because I'm really frustrated with how this game ended up turning out. I mean, this is not a game where we should have had less yards than our opponents, but at the same time, they did win, so ultimately our defense was essentially doing a bend and don't break philosophy. And our defense took the bend, do not break philosophy as far as you could physically take it without losing. And so let's present my screen here. Share screen, and let's pull up the stats. Let's talk about everything. A couple other Tavon says also B+ crowd tonight. Yeah, the crowd wasn't 50-50. UNLV definitely dominated in terms of how many people were in the crowd. UCLA had a fair number of fans there, and I'll be real, I was very frustrated. I was very frustrated with how the game was played. But I think the fans were frustrated about how it was played. It was really difficult to be super into the game because UCLA was just getting these 8-9 yard chunk plays over and over again, and there were penalties on every play, and the game never flowed. I mean, there were a billion TV timeouts, and the game felt like it took 6.5 hours to play. Yeah, crowd was 70-30. I'd agree. Taylor Sperano, my bad, Taylor, says a W is a W. Absolutely. This is not something that we should apologize for, even though the second half was frustrating. A win is a win. And this is not like, the Idaho State game in week 0. This is a Power 4 opponent, and we won. And even though there were frustrating things about it, we won. Red for Life says transfers normally lack discipline. That's why they need to transfer. Yeah, there's so many discipline issues, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And, with how our coaching, honestly, I would put a lot of it on our coaching staff as well, with how our coaching staff was what the formations we were in. We were just keeping the ball in front of us with how UCLA was playing. By the end of the game, when we really were actually trying to bring pressure on Nico Iamavalea, our defense was exhausted by that point because they'd been on. I mean, I'd love to know the time of possession. I know overall team stats. I'd love to know it for the second half, though. I don't. Time of possession was, technically, I'm actually shocked it was only a 3-minute difference, because in the second half, UCLA was in possession of the ball the entire second half. I'm actually also shocked that UCLA was called for more penalties than us. 14 for 129 from UCLA, 13 for 130 yards. So both teams, and that's why I think it's probably fair to say that this game was officiated fine. Both teams were just really undisciplined, and UNLV after that first half, I felt this way last week when we played at Sam Houston. They thought they won the game and they took their foot off the gas. And I don't even want to blame the players for this. This is on the coaches, man. You cannot coach a game as if you've already won it. UNLV, absolutely, last week and this week. Last week, we were playing a worse opponent, and it didn't come back to bite us as bad as it did this week. But you cannot coach a game as if you've already won it. Again, and I'm very happy about this game. I'm okay with the results. I'm okay with how it played out, even though I find it incredibly frustrating. I can live with it. But, I mean, look at the number of plays, just ridiculous. Nico played okay. UCLA was at kind of a critical breaking point in this one. If they would have folded like they absolutely could have and probably should have, they could have, Deshaun Foster could have been fired before he even got back to LA. Now, I don't think that would have happened under any circumstance, but, he really could have dug his own grave completely tonight. And they showed enough fight that as long as they beat New Mexico next week, maybe he can salvage something from this season. But ultimately, in that first half, I was really impressed. Anthony Calandria had 2 balls, one to the sideline and then one to the end zone. Just incredible throws, some of the best throws I've ever seen from a college quarterback, to be honest with you. And then in the second half, he's sitting on the sideline. I feel like I get it's frustrating how the offense played in the second half. The offense had 3 actual possessions in the second half. They scored a touchdown on one of them. And then, UCLA scored 14 points, or I guess 20 points. And, the defense couldn't get UCLA off the field. I mean, that's ultimately what happened. UNLV did not force a punt in the second half. They were just trying to keep the ball in front of them. And I've said that I'm okay with this type of defensive philosophy, but the bend don't break, keep plays in front of you, play conservative type defense only really works if you can get off the field on third down. If you're not giving up dumb penalties that are stopping the clock. UNLV tried to basically run the clock out on UCLA, but they were committing so many penalties, and there were so many penalties committed in this game that the clock didn't stop. And we just ended up sitting there for 2.5 hours in that second half, waiting for this game to end. And it would not end because both teams were playing incredibly undisciplined, because UNLV couldn't, there wasn't like very many blown coverages in this game. It was really just UNLV kept the ball in front of them and were forcing field goals. But these UCLA drives took forever. And UNLV's offense, they got three full chances to score in the second half. One of them, they got an 8-yard run on first down and then took a long shot on 2nd and 2. And then, a bad decision by Anthony Calandria on 2nd and 3, third and 2. And, ultimately it was just a recipe. And then UNLV did get kind of bailed out, I thought the pick play that UCLA could have gotten a touchdown on
in the end zone. That was a good call. The hands to the face that UNLV got, that was also a good call. But Anthony Calandria almost made a horrific decision in giving a pick six to UCLA. And we are just so fortunate that his knee was down, because the game at that point would have been a field goal game. And UNLV's defense, from having been on the field the entire second half, was exhausted at that point and couldn't keep UCLA off the field. And so, I'm glad McDuffie and Morris Brown, they made plays. They ended the game. We won. That's all that matters. But through 3 weeks, I really do feel like there is a lot of room for this team to grow. Well, let's do some comments here. Glover should not be in during crunch time, jet only. Yeah, I found that really frustrating. And something else that was going on was that Mullen was playing 2s and 3s there. And I'm not saying Mullen specifically, but the coaches were playing 2s and 3s on the defensive side of the ball, as if the game was a blowout. There were a lot of players who aren't starters in the game. And again, like, the coaches were acting as if we were up 45-0 when we weren't. And I find the coaching of this game, of that second half, very frustrating. Again, I'm very happy about the win. I do not want to sound like I'm complaining about UNLV beating a Big Ten opponent. But yeah, and UCLA kept going for it on fourth down. We couldn't keep them off the field. Let me make sure I'm not missing any comments here. I'm missing a lot of comments. Perry Stevenson says, we started fast and held on. A very good game to gauge UNLV. It still needs improvements. And the damn penalties. Yes, the damn penalties indeed. Proud of UNLV support. Just needs UNLV effort just needs cleaning up. Taylor Sperano says the Rebs are 3-0 versus the Big, and we couldn't ask for anything, even if the plus minus is 3. Yeah, I totally agree. Bobby Lee says, let's go, Bobby. Good to see you, man. Taylor says again, top of the second half feels like it was 25-5. Yeah. Good to see you, Vegas Guitars. I saw him today at the game. Again, if you're at the games and you want to meet up with me, I'll come to your seat. I'll come shake your hand. Just send me a DM on X, and I'd love to come meet you at games. Any solid team that plays a clean game will expose us. UCLA was as sloppy as we were. I agree with that, Brian. If we play like this against Miami, Ohio 2 weeks from now on the road across the country, I don't think we're going to win. Perry says we need multiple games against power conference per year to build our program further. I agree, and that is the philosophy of the school. Yeah, we have been a decent first half team besides the Idaho State game, but we have been a mediocre second half team. I would agree with that, Tavon. Bobby says, Brian, you got to realize this team is meshing from game 0 to now. I'm happy with what I see. I'm very happy with that first half, Bobby, but the second half, there's still a lot of things we got to clean up. Every game we've advanced some good trends. Yep. And here's the other thing. Thank you, Taylor, for bringing this up. UNLV is going into a bye week. They're going to be able to work and clean up a lot of these things that happened, the penalties, the defensive issues. They basically have 2 bye weeks in the month of September to really kind of iron out this team. And I'm grateful for that, because this team clearly, after 3 straight weeks, clearly needs some time to work out some of the kinks in the offense, in the defense, everything. UNLV needs butts and seats for money. 3 to 9 seasons against Power 4 schools won't sell tickets. I agree. That's 3 PIs in a row. That late series was scary. Yes. Wow, a lot of comments, guys. Sorry, I want to make sure. Kevin asked, does UNLV crack the top 25 with a win? Absolutely. No, they're not going to be anywhere near the top 25. But I suppose, as we talk about the stats and as we continue to break down this game, I will say that what UNLV does by winning this game. Now, they're not at the front of the line. There's a bunch of schools. I'd say your Tulanes and your USFs after winning that game at Florida. What an incredible game for the University of South Florida. There's a couple G5 schools ahead of us in the college football playoff right now, but UNLV absolutely is a part of the discussion because they won this game. Because they won this game, they still control some of their own destiny for the college football playoff. Taylor says UNLV, Tulane, USF, UNLV, and Tulane in that order, obviously with Tulane second. Yeah, there might be another G5 school that I'm forgetting about, but UNLV probably is in the top 3 to 5. Jason, this win on Prime TV is the best advertising we could get. Absolutely. This was great advertising for the school. It was great. Again, it would have been nice to win this game a bit cleaner, but it was a great momentum builder. Not just for this season, not just for UNLV trying to, eventually make the college football playoff under Dan Mullen, and whether that's this season or a future season. this win was a good tone-setting type win, even if it was very frustrating towards the end of the game. And I'm going to be very interested to see what Coach Mullen has to say about, the lack of discipline in that second half. Let's keep going over some stats here. Let's go to box score here, huh? So for UCLA, Nico Imalivia threw for 255 yards, 6.2 yards per attempt, or per completion, I should say. 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Nico, I thought, was okay this game. I mean, UNLV was bringing the pressure in the first half and was kind of giving him fits, which was what was so frustrating about that second half, because UNLV in the third quarter and even through about half of the fourth quarter really went away from blitzing Nico, and we're just giving him way too much time to be comfortable in the pocket. And again, that prevent defense is fine, but if you're committing penalties and you can't get off the field, that prevent defense is eventually going to come back to bite you in the butt, the park the bus type defense that we were playing. So Nico got pretty comfortable in the second half. He made some okay throws. The UNLV defense made obviously just enough plays to get them off the field. In terms of rushing, I would say that this was, a reasonable effort in terms of stopping the UCLA rushing attack. Nico ran for 59 yards, 11 carries, and their running backs, they split it between these three guys, Javian Thomas, who it's much like Jaden Thomas, they both go by Jet. That's interesting. Anthony Woods and Jalen Berger all ran for, between 30 and 40 yards. I thought the rushing defense was better tonight. It was more of the pass defense and how much room our DBs were giving them off the line. And some of the soft kind of zone coverages, it was rough. When you look at the UCLA receiving game, I mean, some of this, look how many guys caught catches here. Quasi Gilmer, Mikey Matthews. There's just too many. They just had too much space and they were too comfortable in that second half. And UNLV was just trying to keep them from scoring. And in reality, we ended up kind of cutting our defense down over time. Anthony Calandria was, outside of one horrific drive in the fourth quarter where he almost threw a pick six that very could have well ended to the UNLV losing this game. Anthony Calandria was magnificent. 15 of 21, 203 yards, 9.7 yards per completion, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Calandria has been magnificent this year. Could not be any prouder of his effort as a player. And again, there's some things to clean up. Sometimes he's not always the greatest decision maker. But I thought Calandria was outstanding. UNLV goes for 148 rushing yards. One note of concern, I would say, guys, is we did see Alex Orji on the sideline on crutches. Don't know about his health, about his condition, but it looks after that one rush. And honestly, Alex Orji might have been helpful in that second half. I think UNLV could have used Alex Orji for some of those third and shorts. So if he's hurt, hopefully he can use this bye week to be ready for Miami, Ohio, because while I do love Calandria and this team is fine with Calandria, even as a runner, I think Alex Orji still has a lot of useful, utility for this program. And I hope that he's not out. So Alex Orji, we're on injury watch with him. Hopefully he's okay. Don't know much about his position right now. In terms of the other running backs, Jet Thomas, only 13 carries again, and a lot of this is just because when you look at why so few carries for Jet, it's because UNLV just didn't have the ball in the second half. We only had like 5 or 6 minutes of possession in that second half. And so, because of some dumb penalties, because of some dumb mistakes, because of a dumb sack that Calandria took, UNLV was just not in a position to run the ball that much. And Jet Thomas, I thought, even still was not in the game enough. He didn't really have one of those kind of explosive runs. The best run of the night was from Kevon Lee, who is a lot better, honestly. Only 1 carry. His 1 carry, he goes for 19 yards and for a touchdown. Jet Thomas really had to grind for these 61 yards. And ultimately, the offense, it's almost there, but there are still some things they need to iron out because we need to have our best players have the ball more often, and our drives need to be more sustained. In the second half, we can't just shut down and play scared Paul Gunther, because that's what our defense was doing. In terms of UNLV receiving, Varquez Gums, really one spectacular catch by him. It was good to see Troy Omier get some more run. He had the one spectacular touchdown catch in the right corner of the end zone. Another great thing to see was UNLV using tight end Nick Elkness. He's a tight end transfer. Really like him as a player, big body, Gets that one touchdown catch, two receptions for 32 yards, but gets that 121-yard touchdown catch. And then Dejon Reynolds had a very nice reception as well, 32-yard reception. Kevon Lee had a couple of nice plays out of the backfield. D'Angelo Irvin, a name that didn't get a lot of buzz tonight was Jaden Bradley. UCLA was doubling him and was not wanting UNLV to get very much in terms of Jaden Bradley, who had been the kind of the star wide receiver through the first 2 weeks. And so a lot of things to clean up. In terms of the fumbles, there's Jaheim Joseph recovered a fumble. Jake Pope was the number one tackler. I thought this was Jake Pope's best game so far as a Rebel, better than the games 1 and 2, of course. But mostly because of the type of defense that UNLV was playing. Jake Pope just had time to sit back, let the play develop in front of him, and go and tackle the guy. And so he's probably exhausted tonight, especially with the burden that we put on our safeties tonight with the just prevent defense that we were playing all of the second half. In terms of the rest of the defense, McDuffie, I thought he had a couple of really good plays, but again, he didn't play enough for me. He did have 4 solo tackles. A guy that I'm a little disappointed in because I didn't hear much about him tonight was Lucas Conti. I don't know if he was injured, but he, after having an incredible game at Sam Houston, didn't do a lot. Again, Chief Borders wasn't super impressed with him tonight. But, the defense, there's just a lot of tackles here and a lot of just keeping the ball in front of you and playing prevent defense. So ultimately, statistically frustrating because, the stats could have been a lot better for this team. But yeah, it's interesting. I guess we'll see. I want to make sure that we aren't missing any comments here. Let me make sure. Here we go. Okay. Jordan says, being in the conversation and being relevant is fabulous. We will receive votes. Yes, we are relevant. Because we won this game, UNLV football is still relevant. It doesn't matter. It didn't really matter how we won this game, even though it was very frustrating. All we had to do was win, and we did. And that's okay. And that's great. Actually, sorry, that's not okay. That's great. We're going to go into a bye week. We're 3-0, and life's good, guys. I mean, things are good. And the coaches are allowed to be frustrated about this, and we as fans can be frustrated about it. But ultimately, when you think about the past of UNLV football and how many these last 2 seasons we've started 3-0 2 years in a row, and that's unheard of for the history of UNLV football. This is a game that Marcus Arroyo, Mark Sanchez, Bobby Huck, nobody wins this game. And so UNLV football is progressing, and even though there are frustrations, we're in a healthy place right now. Bobby Lee, OC play calling was so questionable the second half. It was very vanilla. It was very, defensive. It was just bad. Nico leaving Tennessee for UCLA is the exact problem with college football in 2025. I definitely agree. He demanded more money. Let's see. Any others? Only 36K feels low. Yeah, the attendance was fine tonight. It was not bad, but I wish it would have been more. Let's keep moving, guys. Let's keep seeing all these comments. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, hope Alex is okay. He hurt his knee. Looked like a defender ran into it as he was fighting for extra yards. Yes, Alex Orgy, we're worried about him. His health is, hopefully he's okay. Bradley got 2 or 3 defenders on every play. Yeah, Jaden Bradley, he was one of the nation's leading receivers over the last couple of weeks. And UCLA was just not going to let Jaden Bradley beat us tonight. And so other players did, and that's great. I agree. This was great for recruiting. Yes, Jason, UCLA showed it wouldn't quit, and we'll see how they do next week against New Mexico. Steven says, just got home. I'm freaking pooped, man. I feel like I just had a 4-hour workout. I said my blood pressure was terrible that whole second half. Not because I said a couple of times I was like, oh, we might lose this game. We're going to lose this game. I really didn't feel like we were going to lose. I was just so frustrated. Let's see. Any more? We have progressed every week. I totally agree, guys. Let's make sure we're not missing any comments here at the top. Okay, we already got that one. Miami, Ohio just got boat raced by Rutgers. That's going to be interesting. This next game against Miami, Ohio, I had it pegged as a loss coming into the season, as did I did have this UCLA game pegged as a loss too. Yes, this time we are 3-0. And as Adrian says, last year, think about it, last year, we'd just beaten Kansas in that crazy game, Matthew Sluka, and then Matthew Sluka transfers from our program. Luckily, I do not think that Anthony Calandria will be transferring like Matthew Sluka did. And so, ultimately, what can this defense do to prevent things like this from happening again? Because it happened last week at Sam Houston, and it happened this week against UCLA. It's coaching. Dan Mullen is a smart guy. He won 100 games in the SEC, and he will figure this out. He will sit down with Paul Gunther. We have a bye week now, and they will figure this out. And I have confidence and faith that this UNLV football program will iron out some of these issues. Because if we play like this, if we play like we played in the second half against Miami, Ohio 2 weeks from now, we're going to lose. That's just a fact. Honestly, they get some slack. They were on the field a lot in the second half. Yes, and I'm not. Here's the thing, guys. I'm not even frustrated with the UNLV defensive players. This is coaching. This is absolutely on coaches. The frustrating second half, even though we're very happy with the win, I just want to make sure that everybody remembers that. We're very happy that we won. The frustrating second half is on Paul Gunther, our defensive coordinator. It is not on the players. The players were doing what they were asked to do. Outside of a couple of plays, the players asked, were doing exactly what they were told to do. And the defensive scheme was working. We just couldn't get off the field on third down, and we were just committing way too many penalties. So looking forward at the UNLV schedule, it's late. I am exhausted. I will do a film review a little bit. I'm looking forward to kind of diving into the film here of this game. But let's look forward to UNLV's schedule for the rest of the season, because I had this game pegged as a loss. So because we're going to have a bye week now, maybe we can look into the future a little bit and see kind of what UNLV's season looks like. I had the Rebels at 8-4 coming into this year. After having won this game, I think that my score prediction was definitely, look, there are still a ton of games that we could lose on this schedule. But let's pull up the schedule and let's talk about, what the rest of the 2025 season is going to look like for the UNLV football team. So I had at Miami, Ohio pegged as a loss. I don't think Miami, looking at them this season, they're 0-2. Now they have a bye week as well. So both teams are going to be coming off of a bye week. They got slammed at Wisconsin, although that game was closer probably than people realize. They did not score. And then they get crushed at Rutgers. So this UNLV home game is going to be Miami, Ohio's first game of the season at their home arena. It's a game I'm going to try and get to. I'm hoping to get there, to travel there and cover the team from Oxford, Ohio. That's where Miami, Ohio is. So I had this game pegged as a loss. I think the Rebels can win it now. Now, I'm not going to go back and change my preseason predictions. I'll still say it's going to be a loss. But I think that this is a winnable game. Another game that's going to be tough is at Wyoming. Wyoming looks better than I thought that they would. If UNLV can win both of these games, they're going to be in very good position because those are two kind of tough road games. And Miami, Ohio, it's not going to be a gimme. And always playing in Laramie is tough. It's not an easy place to play. And so, UNLV can go 2-0 in those games. I feel like I need to see a little bit more from Hawaii. From Wyoming. They are 2-0. They beat a tricky Northern Iowa team. They beat a 10-0 against Akron. It's going to be tough. I think Wyoming's better than I thought that they were, and Miami, Ohio is a little worse than I thought they were. So, if UNLV can win both of those games, they're in incredible shape. And if they lose either of them, I think it's going to be tough for the rest of the season. Then October 11th, we get Air Force. We will have seen Air Force play Boise State by then. So I still feel like UNLV can absolutely win this game and will win this game. But Air Force is tricky. It's the triple option. And it's tough to beat Air Force, even if you are a good team. Playing against the triple option when you haven't been playing against it is tough. Then comes the showdown. They're going to get one more chance at Boise State unless we can make the Mountain West title game. Boise State's a good team. They had a rough week against USF. USF, I think, has proven that they're a very good team by beating Florida on the road. Boise State is going to be incredibly motivated in this game. They will probably have 2 losses at that point after they lose at Notre Dame, which I predicted they will, and everybody predicts that they will. But if UNLV can be undefeated heading into that Boise State game, there's going to be a lot of things in front of the Rebels. And even if the Rebels lose at Boise State, they'll still be in the college football playoff race. And then the rest of the season, it ends out a little bit easier. But that, this 4-game stretch, Miami to Boise, it's 4 straight games. We do not have a bye week. And ultimately, games like Utah State at home and then Reno on the road to end the season, we're not going to have a lot of rest going into these games. And so, UNLV's schedule, do I think 9-3 is on the table now? Absolutely, I do. I think that they can be we're 4-0 if you we're 4-0 if you factor in the Reno game. Yeah, we'll see. Reno did not look inspiring today against Sacramento State, that's for sure. I guess we'll see. And SJSU does look worse than we thought. I think that the Rebels probably can't have more than 2 conference losses, might get them to the Mountain West Championship game. But it's going to be interesting. Amaris Brown nickname is Aura. Yes. So guys, I feel good tonight. I'm frustrated. I'm tired, but I'm ultimately just grateful. Wyoming plays Utah next week. That's the loss for Wyoming. Yes, I agree, Kevin. But ultimately, I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful that we're 3-0. You know, it's crazy. You know, it's crazy to think about where UNLV football was and where it is now. And if despite all the frustrations from that second half, I think the most important thing to do is take a step back, think about where this program was 5 years ago. Think about how we still have the whole world. You know, I'm not saying like we should appreciate losses or, you know, we should be grateful to be 2-1. We're 3-0 and we're in control of our own destiny. And that's a beautiful thing. And it's nice. It feels like it's kind of becoming normal that UNLV football is a legitimate school. And so I'm grateful, guys. I'm grateful to the fans, the people that are listening to this show right now. I'm happy, even though I'm a little frustrated still and very tired and grumpy. Guys, like things are good. Things are good. We should be grateful as Rebel fans, and we should expect our team to be more disciplined next time that they play Miami, Ohio. And it's a little sad that we won't get a home game until next month against Air Force. But this team has a lot of ways to grow. And these next 3 weeks where we have one game in 3 weeks, as Taylor says, they're going to be great opportunities for this team to develop. And so, guys, let me know your thoughts. Yeah, USF is playing really well. You know, ultimately, I think we just have to compete for the Mountain West. You know, the college football playoff is something that's a little out of our control. USF is in control of their own destiny. Just go and win the stinking Mountain West. That's what I want. That's what I care about more than anything else. And so, guys, let me know your thoughts. Send me a DM if you want to talk about the game. I'll respond to you. I'd love to talk to you. Let me know, what you think. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're watching this on Twitter, please like this and follow. Guys, you're awesome. Shoot me a message at the games. I'd love to come talk to you. And I'm grateful and happy. So, guys, have a great night. And I will talk to you all later. Let's run, Rebels. 3-0, baby. Woo, 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 woo.